Let's bring in Soo Kim. She's a former CIA intelligence analyst and linguist, and a current policy analyst at the RAND Corporation here in Washington. First, I want to get your take on the U.S. DPRK envoy Stephen Biegun's visit to the region. He's making his rounds in Asia, stopping in Japan, South Korea. Will be in China on Thursday. He is saying that the U.S. is ready to talk with Kim Jong-un. What will it take to get back to the table?
It's going to take a lot more than Stephen Biegun or Secretary Pompeo saying that it's the right time to talk to North Korea, that it's the opportunity that North Korea does not want to lose. We've seen that recently North Korea's lashed out against South Korea and the United States for their joint exercises. The rhetoric has been upped the ante, so we see that North Korea is not going to want to back down at this point. Unless Kim is at the point where he's very close to getting what he wants, he's not going to be toning down the rhetoric. He's not going to be treating South Korea any nicer than he has right now. So at this point, we have to think about just what we're trying to get with these working level talks. If we're going to be back at the table, let's say that President Trump and Kim Jong-un once again meet for their fourth or third round of summits, with nothing really to show, then we're actually putting ourselves in a tighter bind even.
How is the DPRK viewing this round of diplomacy right now with Biegun in the area, these trilateral talks? What are they to glean from what is happening at the moment?
Well, I think Kim Jong-un is actually enjoying the sight because it's exactly playing along just as he had hoped. We're seeing that the United States and South Korea, they're at a point where the alliance is actually being a little bit divisive, where South Korea is not really aligning with the United States' priorities. The South Korea-Japan trade spat even is actually wearing away at the trilateral alliance that's supposed to be a buffer against North Korea's encroachments and harsh rhetoric, and we're not seeing this united front among the three parties. So from North Korea's perspective, this is a very ideal situation where Kim has been very calibrated in his rhetoric and his provocations and his missile tests. So the only thing that we're seeing right now is that Kim is just going to move forward with the way he's been. And it's up to the United States and South Korea to figure out how they're going to be responding. Unfortunately, the united front that we're supposed to see between Washington and Seoul is just not there.
Well, and that being said, you touched on the trade tensions between South Korea and Japan. How is that dynamic, or is it complicating diplomacy on the Korean Peninsula?
I would say that it is complicating it because South Korea and Japan, typically they should be, as two countries that are closely, geographically they're proximate to one another, and they both have to deal with this ever-present North Korean missile threat. To see that these traditional allies are not being able to bridge the divide between them over historical issues that have, according to Japan, been resolved in 1965, that's being brought up 40 years later on and trying to be hashed out again. This is, again, an opportunity for North Korea to really wedge even further into the alliance, into the partnership. So the talks about South Korea not really knowing whether or not they're going to be proceeding forward with the GSOMIA, it's concerning because we have to think about how Washington, Seoul, and Tokyo have been cooperating on intelligence collection and analysis, and to think that if this is not going to be renewed, where is that going to put us in our capabilities and assessing the ballistic missile threat and the nuclear threat and anything else?
About 30 seconds left, but we know that Biegun will also be in China on Thursday. There was just this trilateral meeting between China, the ROK, and Japan. Very quickly, China's role in this in trying to mediate, the differences here.
Well, we saw that after the trilateral foreign ministerial level talks that China insisted that the sides have to talk through dialogue. So it seems like China wants to maintain this notion of stability without really getting itself involved too much to the point where it's going to have to make that call. Right now, what China wants to do is to make sure that its own interests are being protected, and that's going on as proceeded.
All right, got to get everyone to the table. Soo Kim, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.